You're out on the ice. It's dead quiet. You've drilled your holes, you've got your top-of-the-line gear, and you've mixed up that special secret recipe ground bait that cost a small fortune. You drop a few perfectly formed balls down the hole, watch them disappear into the dark, and you wait. And you wait. And nothing happens. What if I told you that expensive, perfectly mixed ground bait is the exact reason the fish aren't biting? What if the very thing you're counting on to attract fish is actually shutting the bite down completely? Today, we're exposing the single most common and most fatal mistake anglers make with winter ground bait. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you will look at that bag of bait in a totally different way. So let me ask you this right now. Do you believe that feeding more aggressively brings more fish to your spot in the winter? Let me know in the comments, and let's see if you still think so in about 10 minutes. For generations, the logic has seemed simple. If you want to catch fish, you have to attract them. And how do you attract them? You give them food. In the summer, this works like a charm. We chum the water, create a feeding frenzy, and the fish compete aggressively for our hook bait. It's a strategy burned into our brains. So when winter rolls around, we naturally try to do the same thing, just maybe a little less. We buy special winter mixes. We're told they have finer particles and different scents, but our core strategy remains the same. Put down a bed of food to draw the fish in and hold them. This habit is so ingrained that we rarely stop to question it. We see our buddy next to us dropping in bait, so we do it too. It's just what you do, but this is where the logic breaks down. Because a fish in 5-degree water is a completely different animal from a fish in 25-degree water. And applying summer rules to a winter game is the fast track to failure. Let's start with the winter paradox. Fish in cold water need to eat to survive, so they are technically hungry. But their metabolism has slowed down to a crawl. Think of it like a bear in hibernation. It's not dead, but it's not running a marathon either. A fish's body is in energy conservation mode. It doesn't need or want a big meal. A tiny, easy-to-get snack is all it's looking for. It might only eat a few bloodworms or a single nymph all day. When we come along and dump a pile of nutrient-rich ground bait on its head, we're not ringing the dinner bell. We're creating a confusing, overwhelming situation that their slow, cold water brain isn't equipped to handle. The paradox is that their need for food is minimal, but our instinct to provide food is maximal, and these two things are in direct conflict. This leads directly to the problem of the summer habit. All spring and summer, we are rewarded for aggressive feeding. The more you feed, the bigger the shoal of fish you can build up in your swim. It's an active, competitive environment. We see the water cloud up, we see the bubbles, and we get bites. Our brain creates a powerful connection. Lots of bait equals lots of fish. So when we get on the ice, we carry that same mentality with us. We might reduce the quantity from a huge bucket to a few balls, but the principle is the same. We believe we need to lay a carpet of food. This is the single hardest habit for an experienced angler to break. It feels wrong to use a tiny amount of bait. It feels like you're not doing enough to make something happen. But in winter, doing less is actively doing more. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you've just finished a massive holiday dinner. You are completely stuffed, leaning back in your chair, feeling lazy. Then someone comes along and puts another, entirely separate, 3-course meal in front of you. You're not going to eat it. In fact, the very sight and smell of it might make you feel a bit sick. That is exactly what we do to winter fish. They're drifting along, cold and slow, maybe thinking about picking off a single bloodworm. Then suddenly a giant ball of breadcrumbs, corn, and attractants explodes on the bottom next to them. It's an overwhelming amount of food. A single bream could get its entire daily calorie requirement from one mouthful of a rich, summer-style ground bait. Once it does that, it's finished. It's not interested in your tiny maggot on the hook anymore. It's full. Now let's talk about the scent versus food delusion. A lot of anglers think, okay, maybe I won't use a lot of food particles, but I need a big cloud of scent to pull fish in from a distance. So they use very light, active ground baits that create a huge, lingering plume in the water. In the summer, this can be a good thing, but winter water is often incredibly clear. Fish are naturally wary. When they see a huge, unnatural cloud of particles hanging in the water, it doesn't scream food. It screams danger or something is wrong here. Furthermore, these light particles often rise up in the water column. This can draw smaller fish up and away from the bottom, lifting them far from where your hook bait is sitting. The goal isn't to create a confusing cloud, it's to create a very small, very precise scent trail on the bottom that leads directly to your hook. So let's break down the bait itself. Your typical summer ground bait is designed to do three things: attract, stimulate, and feed. It's often light in color, full of large, visible particles like corn or hemp, and it's mechanically active. That means it fizzes and breaks apart quickly, sending particles flying everywhere. It's rich in proteins and carbohydrates, a real power meal for an active fish. This is a recipe for a feeding frenzy. You are literally creating competition, making the fish aggressive. This is fantastic when their metabolism is high and they are fighting for every meal. It's a party in the water and everyone is invited. But bringing that same party mix to the cold, quiet stillness of a winter lake is like setting off fireworks in a library. It's loud, obnoxious, and makes everyone want to leave. And here's exactly why that fails in the winter. First, as we've said, one mouthful of that rich bait and a fish is full. Your session is over before it even began for that particular fish. Second, the light color stands out like a sore thumb against a dark, silty bottom. In the clear water of winter, this is a massive red flag. Fish associate that weird, light-colored patch with danger from above, like birds. Third, the active particles that create that lovely summer fizz are a nightmare in winter. They lift off the bottom, creating that confusing cloud we talked about, and can actually pull fish away from your presentation. Instead of concentrating them in one spot on the bottom, you're scattering them throughout the water column. You've successfully attracted them, only to make them impossible to catch. This brings us to the real goal of winter ground bait. You needed to completely change your thinking. Your goal is not to feed the fish. I'll say that again. You are not trying to feed the fish. Your one and only job is to arrest their attention and create a focal point of interest that holds them just long enough to find your hook bait. Think of it as a subtle signpost, not a buffet. You want to create a small, dark, and mostly inert patch on the bottom. This patch should have a faint scent trail that says something interesting might be here, but it should offer almost zero actual food value. The fish should come in, sniff around the area, and the only real food item it finds should be a maggot or bloodworm on the hook. The ground bait is just the stage. Your hook bait is the star of the show. So, let's finally name the fatal mistake. It is not one thing, but a combination of two. The fatal mistake is using too much ground bait, and using a ground bait that is too active and nutritious for cold water. It is a 1-2 punch of failure that experienced anglers commit all the time because of their ingrained summer habits. They overfeed the fish, making them apathetic to the hook bait, and the bait they use is too conspicuous and creates a confusing, fish-scaring cloud in the water column. They are simultaneously filling the fish's belly while also spooking it. It's the worst of both worlds. Fixing this isn't about buying a more expensive bait. It's about a radical shift in strategy, using far less bait and making sure that bait is as plain and boring as possible. This leads to what I call the apathy effect. This is something you may have even seen on your fish finder or underwater camera. You mark a big school of bream or roach. You get excited, you drop a couple of balls of bait down there to get them feeding. You see the fish move over the bait on your screen, and then they just sit there. They don't move, they don't feed, they are completely apathetic. Why? Because you've overfed them. A few of the fish have eaten a piece of the ground bait and they are now full. They have no reason to search for your tiny hook bait. They just hang around dormant, digesting their meal. You've successfully gathered the fish, but you've killed the bite in the process. This is one of the most frustrating experiences in winter fishing, and it is almost always self-inflicted. I'll give you a perfect real-life example. A few years ago, I was on a frozen reservoir fishing for perch. The guy in the tent about 50 yards from me was a very good summer match angler. I watched him. Every 30 minutes, like clockwork, he'd drop in a big feeder full of what looked like a rich, leamy mix. He was fishing for 2 days and caught almost nothing. I, on the other hand, started my day with a single ball of ground bait the size of a golf ball. It was dark, heavy, and had almost no food in it. I didn't add any more bait for the first 4 hours. I just sat there, patiently fishing over that tiny spot. And I pulled out perch after perch. He was trying to force the bite, to make it happen. I was just giving the fish a reason to be curious. At the end of the day, he came over and couldn't believe it. He had used 2 kilos of bait. I had used less than 100 grams. Now, a crucial detail from that story, my bait was dark. Darkening your bait in winter is one of the easiest and most effective changes you can make. The water in winter is usually at its clearest and there's less weed cover. The lake bed is often dark, silt, mud, decaying leaves. A pile of light brown or yellow ground bait looks incredibly unnatural and alarming to fish. It's like leaving a bright yellow wallet on a black coffee table. It just doesn't belong. You can easily darken your mix using special black bait dyes, or even easier, by adding natural materials. A bit of dark soil from a mole hill or some fine dark peat works wonders. This helps your bait blend in, making it look like a natural part of the lake bed and giving wary fish the confidence to investigate it without fear. This brings us to the secret of inert ingredients. To avoid overfeeding, you need to bulk up your ground bait with things that have no food value. These are your fillers. The number one best ingredient for this is simple soil, or what anglers call leam. It's a heavy clay-like soil that you can get from the banks of the river or buy in tackle shops. Another great option is fine gravel or sand. What do these do? They add weight, which helps your bait get to the bottom quickly in a tight ball. They add bulk, so you feel like you're creating a spot on the bottom, and they add that crucial dark color, but most importantly, they contain 0 calories. You can create a decent-sized ball of bait that is 90% soil and only 10% actual ground bait mix. It has all the scent and attraction, but none of the stomach-filling side effect. Let's be clear about what inert really means. It means chemically and biologically inactive. It's a neutral filler. When a fish comes to investigate a bait mix that is mostly soil or sand, it can root around in it looking for the few actual food items like the loose maggots or bloodworms you've added. It gets all the stimulation of feeding, but it doesn't actually consume much. This is the key. It keeps the fish in your swim, searching for more for a much longer period. Your hook bait becomes the most substantial food item in the area, making it the prime target. An inert mix allows you to create that subtle signpost without accidentally putting out a full buffet. It's the ultimate trick, making the fish think there's a lot of food, when in reality there's hardly any at all. So, how should you mix your ground bait for winter? The rule of thumb is the barely holds together rule. You want to add water very slowly, a little bit at a time, until the mix is just damp enough to be squeezed into a ball. It should feel slightly dry and gritty, not like a sticky summer mix. When you form a ball, it should be very dense and hard. The goal is for this ball to get to the bottom completely intact. You do not want it breaking up on the way down. Once it hits the bottom, it should then break apart very, very slowly, or even just sit there as a lump, slowly releasing its scent. A mix that is too wet will be sticky and will create that dreaded cloud as it falls. A mix that is too dry will break up on impact. You need that perfect, dense consistency for a precise, clean presentation. The delivery system is just as important as the mix itself. Forget the big summer spods or large cage feeders. In winter, precision is everything. Often the best way is to simply drop a small, tightly squeezed ball of bait directly down the hole you are fishing in. It doesn't get more accurate than that. If you're fishing a bit further away, a small, solid feeder cup on the end of a pole is perfect. This allows you to place a tiny nugget of bait exactly where you want it. The key is to concentrate the attraction in a very small area, ideally no bigger than a dinner plate, right around your hook. Spreading bait all over the place is counterproductive. It makes the fish swim around searching instead of homing in on your trap. Think like a sniper, not a machine gunner. One precise shot is all you need. It's time to debunk a major myth. You need a lot of bait to pull fish in from far away. This might hold some truth in a flowing river or a vast summer lake where fish are actively roaming. But in a cold, still winter lake, fish are not on the move. They are often shoaled up tight in specific areas, conserving energy. They are not going to travel 50 yards across the lake for a potential meal. Your job is not to pull fish from the next county. Your job is to find where the fish are already living and then present a subtle, confident offering to them. You are fishing for the fish that are already in front of you. Piling in bait in the hope of attracting distant shoals is a waste of time and money. It's far better to drill more holes and spend your time locating fish rather than trying to magically teleport them to you with bait. This leads us to the little and often trap. This is a common piece of advice in fishing, and in summer it's golden. A small, regular top-up of bait keeps the fish interested. But in winter, even this can be a huge mistake. A better starting motto is little and once. Start your session with one and only one small ball of bait, maybe the size of a marble or a golf ball at most. Then do not add any more. Fish over that spot for at least an hour or two. If you are getting bites, there is zero reason to add more bait. You will only ruin it. Only if the bites have completely died off for a very long time should you even consider adding another, even smaller pinch of bait. More often than not, that initial small ball is all you will need for an entire day's fishing. You need to learn how to read the signs. The fish will tell you when you've made a mistake. A classic sign of overfeeding is when you get a flurry of fast bites right after you've fed. You might catch 2 or 3 fish in 10 minutes. You get excited and think, it's working, I'll put some more in. You do, and then it's over. The bites stop dead. What happened? You attracted a small group of fish. They quickly ate the food you provided, including your hook bait. But when you added more, they finished off the rest of the ground bait, filled their bellies, and now they are done. They have no reason to bite again. If you experience that quick flurry followed by a long pause, you can be almost certain you've overfed the swim. The next time you use half that amount. Here is a practical strategy you can try on your very next trip. It's called the 2-hole strategy, and it will prove the point better than any words can. Drill 2 holes close to each other, maybe 10 feet apart. In the first hole, feed what you would consider a normal but small amount of your winter ground bait, 1 or 2 little balls. In the second hole, put nothing. Absolutely 0 ground bait, just your hook bait. Start by fishing in the baited hole. Then, after an hour, switch to the unbaited hole, alternate between them throughout the day. I am willing to bet that you will be shocked by the results. You will often find that the unbaited hole, or the hole with the absolute minimal amount of bait, produces more and bigger fish. This experiment will retrain your brain and build your confidence in the less is more approach. So let's bring it all together for the ultimate takeaway. Your job as a winter angler is not to be a chef for the fish, it is to be a subtle guide. You are creating a small, discreet, and safe-looking point of interest on the lake bed. It's a tiny little breadcrumb trail that leads the fish, which is already in the area, directly to your hook. You want to spark its curiosity, not satisfy its hunger. The moment you start thinking in terms of feeding the fish, you are on the path to failure. Think in terms of intrigue and suggestion. Your ground bait should be a quiet whisper that says, "Hey, check this out, there might be an easy snack here." It should never be a giant flashing neon sign that screams, "All-you-can-eat buffet." The quiet approach will always win in the cold. So, there you have it. The fatal mistake isn't a secret ingredient or a complicated rig. It's simply treating winter fish like summer fish. It's the deeply ingrained habit of overfeeding, using bait that is too rich, too active, and too visible for lethargic, wary fish in cold, clear water. The most shocking, game-changing moment for any angler is when you realize that your success can be directly measured by how little bait you can get away with. The fact that you might catch more fish by using 90% less bait is a total, what at a Poverot moment, a complete plot twist. It goes against everything we've been taught. But this single shift in mindset from feeder to guide can and will transform your winter fishing from frustratingly slow to incredibly productive. Thank you so much for watching. If this video opened your eyes and challenged some of your old habits, do me a favor and hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss more tips that go against the grain. And now I really want to hear from you. What is the single biggest old-school fishing rule or piece of advice that you think is complete nonsense? Let's get a good debate going in the comments below. Stay warm and tight lines.